I think that, Trump is who he is. I think unlike most politicians, he never pretended to be somebody else. And what I would always do is try to give him my point of view. I was lucky that he gave me the opportunity to weigh in. Sometimes he listened, sometimes he didn't. But he was a very original politician and obviously a very effective one.
Give people an idea of the bureaucracy in Washington and what it is to try to navigate the swamp. I'm often struck. I'm a native Washingtonian, by the way. I grew up in a small southern town, which was Washington, the town that John F. Kennedy called, a town that has all the charm of a northern city and all the efficiency of a southern city. But it's turned into this giant megalopolis now. 7 or 8 of the nation's most wealthy counties surround Washington, D.C., not because of the products they produce, but because of their proximity to information and the center of government. And it's one giant bureaucracy, is the way I feel about it. How do you feel about it, and how did you navigate it?
Yeah, so first of all, I still think that with all the flaws of our system, we're one of the best systems in the world. I think that it really takes the right people, though, to make it work. And so the bureaucracy can both be a sword or it could be a shield, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. And I hope you got from reading my book the fact that when empowered with clear directives and good leadership, the bureaucracy can actually be incredibly effective to get things done that wouldn't be done otherwise. I write during COVID about how we ramped up testing or how we rolled out a vaccine. That wouldn't be possible without the muscle and the toolkit of the federal government. And you have, again, we dealt with, thousands and tens of thousands of amazing government employees who help make that happen. But what you also find is that, the wrong bureaucrat or kind of the wrong person in the wrong place can really cause a lot of trouble. And it's very easy to kill something in Washington, much easier to do that than it is to get things done. And so, the cool thing about the system that our founding fathers put together is you have people from all different backgrounds, different geographies coming together, having to agree on objectives and trying to get it done. And it shouldn't be easy to get things done. And so I write extensively about a bipartisan accomplishment we had on criminal justice reform, where we got 87 votes in the Senate in a very divided time. We should have had 89. I won't tell you why we didn't get the last 2. One was traveling. The other one was upset about something else. But it just showed that if you work the senators, I write a lot about how we work them individually and all the ways it almost didn't happen. But again, Washington is a complicated place, but it's a place where you can get a lot of incredible things done that can help a lot of people as well.
I'm curious about your thoughts about that criminal justice reform. It's another largely unheralded accomplishment of your father-in-law, of the Trump administration, a man who, and an administration often branded by progressives as racist, but that single piece of legislation did more to free young black men from jails than anything else I've seen in my lifetime.
Yes, and not indiscriminately. It was people who were over-sentenced because of laws that were racially disparate, who had shown that they weren't a threat to society and were able to re-enter. But it was something that we worked across the aisle. I got the support from the ACLU and a lot of the Democrats as well. And a lot of the Democrats, John Lewis was initially opposing it. And I write about how I worked with all these different groups to come together and accomplish it. And, for the people who called, President Trump racist, I would always say, just look at the policies. There was nothing racist about the policies. He did more for Black Americans than any politician in a long time. He worked to give school choice in the inner cities, to give people the opportunity to have better schools. He permanently funded the historically Black colleges and universities. He created opportunity zones to encourage people to invest capital in under poor areas where there were majority minority. And basically, he also did criminal justice reform to bring more parity. And these reforms were supported by the police groups because they would also make communities safer by taking people who are in prison, giving them job training, giving them mental health treatment, addiction treatment, and basically making sure that when they leave prison, they have a higher chance of getting a job and re-entering society instead of going on to commit a future crime. So this was something I was very, very proud of. President Trump got it done. President Obama tried, couldn't get it done. And it was a great accomplishment that's impacted a lot of people very positively.
All that said, and I agree with most of what you say right there, but all that said, it seems to me that your father-in-law, in large part because of his bombastic personality and his aggressive nature, his counterpunching style, which he freely admitted to, just engendered so much hatred that things that he could have accomplished or things that he could have worked on with the opposition were sabotaged because of his, again, bombastic nature. Some say narcissism, others say just, the counterpunching style. Did anybody ever try to rein him in? Did you try to rein him in at the White House? rein in some of his language, some of the off-the-cuff remarks that got him in trouble with world leaders around, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so the same. Well, again, that's one of the questions that I asked myself when doing the book, right? So if Trump was different, would he have been as successful, right? So the same way he would, tweet, and he would always joke that it's the retweets that get him more than the tweets sometimes. But I also talk about how he used, Twitter. I talked about the back and forth with the Ayatollah, with Iran, when they were, thinking of harming U.S. soldiers, and we used it as a defensive mechanism, which we think they saw him as unpredictable, and that may have saved people's lives. It also helped them set up the meeting with Kim Jong-un at the DMZ, which again de-escalated, a very tense global situation. So I think that Trump is who he is. I think he unlike most politicians, he never pretended to be somebody else. And what I would always do is try to give him my point of view. I was lucky that he gave me the opportunity to weigh in. Sometimes he listened, sometimes he didn't. But he was a very original politician, and obviously a very effective one.
Arguably the greatest accomplishment, at least internationally speaking, of the Trump administration is one that you played a key role in, the Abraham Accords. Describe for me how you managed to work around the system, around the State Department, to get that done. And are you concerned that its lasting legacy will not be lasting because of the change of administration and the diminishment of U.S. influence around the world?
So first of all, I'm very, very proud that the Accords have endured over the last year and a half, despite for the first year of the Biden administration refusing to call it by its name. Now they're starting to follow the playbook we left them. The Abraham Accords were it was 5-piece deals. We made a 6-piece deal that actually should enable more countries join the Abraham Accords, but it was basically 6-piece deals that we made in the last 6 months of the Trump administration. The first one was between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, and then Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, Kosovo. And what it did is it paved the way for the Israel and the Arab countries to start working together, people-to-people connectivity. A lot of Muslims felt like through misinformation and propaganda, they weren't allowed to go visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is a big religious site. And it's led to a big de-escalation of tension in the region, which is very, very important. And you think about the Middle East as a place where, unfortunately, we've had to see a lot of soldiers for the last years. We've had threats in our country from radical extremism, and the Abraham Accords will foster more connectivity between people and keep our country safer and really make the world a much more prosperous place as well. So very, very proud of it, and again, very proud how it's enduring, really, despite the efforts of the current administration.
Last question for you, Jared. I ask this of everybody who's in close orbit of the Trump administration and the Trump sphere. Is he going to run again? And will you be a part of the administration if he does?
So I can't speak for him. And, again, it's a very dangerous thing to try to, because, again, he changes his mind and he does different things. I know that he's having a really hard time watching what's happening to this country. He hates seeing the way that inflation is hurting a lot of Americans who obviously, can't afford to have it hurt them the most. Gas prices are up. He's watching what's happening in Europe. When he handed over power, it was basically a peaceful world. He'd had the COVID vaccine starting to roll out. COVID was on the decline. The economy was ready to roar, and we had no war in Europe. China was under control. They were on their back foot, and I think it's very, very hard for them to watch how things, both on the economic policies, have been mismanaged, and on the global policies. So I know that he's very seriously considering it. From my point of view, I obviously very, very proud of my service. If you read the book, you'll go through a lot of the challenges I had. It's very hard in a family to serve for 4 years in government. But again, the opportunity was well worth it. Very proud of all the accomplishments. But I believe that people should serve and then go back to their lives. And right now, I'm very, very happy getting to spend time with my children and also enjoying my time in the private sector.
The book is Breaking History, a White House memoir by Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of President Donald Trump. The single most fascinating page in this book, Jared, by my reckoning, is just over page 271. There's a photograph of you leaving a White House press conference right here, and there's a reporter who happens to be me shouting a question at you, and you didn't answer it. But and in part because of the fact that you joined us, I'm going to give you a signed copy of this New York Times #1 bestseller and send it to you.
I, I appreciate, I kind of blacked out that day. I went out to read a statement that was after I had to testify to Congress that we didn't collude with Russia. And it was my first public statement on the issue after being accused of all kinds of things. I went out, I read my statement, I turned around, and obviously that picture I remember, but I'm glad I didn't answer your question that day, because I don't know what I would have said other than say is we didn't collude with Russia. We won fair and square. So, so I appreciate you pointing that out.
My general rule of thumb.
I look forward to the signed copy.
My general rule of thumb when talking to the press is keep your mouth shut. You're best off for that. Jared Kushner, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you. All the best to you. Take care.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.